Welcome to the family office. Planning for the people who matter most.
You had a lot going on, man. There's been a lot.
Yes, there has. So. Look, okay. Do you shave every day or no?
I do every day.
Okay, so you shave every single day. I don't shave every day anymore. I used to, but I shaved this morning so I could be fresh for today because I wanted to make sure. Because Len, last pod, like I was looking a little rough, and I was like, I can't do Len like that. I can't do him like that. So I shaved today, but I use the Gillettes. I don't even know what they're called anymore. They're like the Gillette Labs. They're like expensive. It's like a second mortgage to buy them, nevertheless. Yeah. But I still get like, do you get like a pull or like just, I feel like I break them every day. Like I have to use a new one every 2 or 3 shaves. Like I feel like I just break them. Do you get the same problem or is it just shit's made cheaply? Like
I do Dollar Shave Club. So the way I do it is they just come in regularly. So I change my razor like after every 2 or 3 shaves. And you know, I have fresh ones that keep coming in, so I don't have to worry about it getting dull and scratching up my face and stuff. Because, you know, brothers, man, if you don't do it right, we get razor bumps and all of that. So
Right. But you only use your razor once or twice and then you toss it?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, because I still have a full head of hair. I just cut it off. And so I'm cutting this every day. Yeah,
so you choose.
I have a lot more surface area.
Okay, so you choose not to have hair on the top of your head.
Exactly. Keep it simple. I don't have to worry about grooming. Just cut it off.
Isn't it crazy that people pay money to have things that you already have, and you pay money to have things that other people don't have that you don't want?
Right? Yeah. I mean, I like my hair, man, but it's just so much easier just to keep it cut, and I don't have to worry about because you know, man, I'm financially frugal. So, you know, $50, $60 haircuts at the barber every other week, man, or sometimes every week because my hair grows pretty fast. Yeah. I just don't want it because then I got to schedule. And if something happens and I'm busy, it's just so much easier just to do it myself, man.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad to be back with you. There's a lot going on. I'm sure there's a lot to talk about today, but obviously we could just jump right into it. The war itself. I mean, I didn't think anything. I understand the strategy behind it, but I just come off with it right now and just say it. I think we're seeing obviously. You know, and when we first talked about it, I'm okay with Israel like kind of leading it, but I just don't. And I'm not about regime change, and I know Trump has specifically said he's not about regime change and he's not about spreading democracy, which is great. But at the same time, and I know there's 2 camps to this, and this plays really well into what you've been talking about, but it also plays into I think what I've been talking about just makes my argument a little bit harder to make now. Because this is, I've been on the road for 2 weeks, okay? I've been in Florida, I've been in Texas, and I've been in California. So I've had a chance of buying gasoline in all of across the entire country. By far, California, it's insanity. I don't even understand how it should be criminal at this point, considering as soon as you cross the border, it's like $1.30 less in Arizona. No doubt. It should be criminal at this point. There should be either, and all that said, I got back and I paid $3. What did I pay? $3.99 a gallon for gas in Texas.
That's a dream out here right now. It's a big deal.
That is a dream. That is a nightmare for me. I'm used to paying $2.50, $2.60 for 93.
Yeah, we haven't paid $2.50 for gas probably in 7-8 years.
You mean since Arnold Schwarzenegger was governor?
Pretty much.
Right? But here's my point, Len, and I'm not trying to puff you up or anything at all at this point, but this is annoying. And here's the point that I'm trying to make with this being annoying. I understand national security. I understand strike while the iron is hot. I understand grand strategy. all of the things that need to happen. Look, Iran is a menace. Iran has been a menace since 1978, since that guy was put into power, however, my dates might be wrong. Iran has been a menace.
You're close.
It's the seeds we're sowing. But this also goes hand in hand with what I champion all the time, and you already know what this is that America does not like war. Americans don't want to be in wars. Americans don't like wars. Americans never wanted it since the beginning of this country, and we're about to celebrate 250 years, and we're at war. This is retarded. And no offense, but this is stupid at this point. And what I was hoping to be a quick thing is, and by the way, don't get too excited, Len, because I do think there's an exit ramp here. I'm not trying to get you excited here, but it is pretty annoying at this point. Because, and I understand why it is annoying at this point, but at this specific moment, we need to really get out of there now. And we better not put boys and girls, or men and women. I call them boys and girls because that's really how they are.
18,
they are.
19,
They're boys.
20
They're 19 years old.
Yeah.
We better not. The only mofos that should be on the ground there are the crazy weirdos that want to be on the ground there. And you know what I'm talking about. Because there are people that want to be on the ground. They do. Absolutely. This is what they live for. But at the same time, Len, and I know I'm going on and on here, and I'll give it to you. Mm-hmm. There's and here's what scares me about it is that if we don't get off this, if we don't take the next exit soon on this, and I think Trump is very smart. I think he's got a plan for this. It's going to happen, but he needs to take the exit fast. But I think he's going to, and he's going to wrap it up the way he's going to wrap it up. But I'm a little nervous about it because I don't like it. And no one likes it. But at the same time, how do you deal with Iran long term? That's the challenging question, right? That's really the Riley quagmires. How do you continue to let Iran do what Iran is doing without stopping it in some way? But in all sense and cases, I think that we pretty much have obliterated what we needed to obliterate. I think the exit ramp is coming soon, and I feel positive about it. But I still think it's annoying. I'm not happy about it.
So, okay. You are absolutely right in terms of the fact that Americans as citizens don't like war. America as an institution loves war because it funds their defense department, it funds their war machine, it funds the military industrial complex, it spurs economies, and so America loves war. Americans hate it. So therein lies the rub. Now, before you talked about the fact that hopefully there will be an off ramp, and the reality is my opinion, is that I believe that Trump and his department, they're treating us like frogs. And so what they're doing is they're giving us a little bit of exposure so that we get used to it, and then they turn the heat up a little bit more. What do I mean by that? Little bit of exposure. We started with this idea of shock and awe when they started with the Iraq war, not Iran, Iraq. And this notion of shock and awe is that the military comes in, the aircrafts goes and drops some bombs, does some strategic strikes, flies into the sunset, and then Iran is just going to sit there and twiddle their thumbs and say, "Oh, okay, now that you're stopped, we're not going to do anything." Well, now that's the first part. The problem is that Iran is not Iraq, and Iran is not Venezuela. Iran has been preparing for this for years. And so because of the way they have decentralized leadership in place, even if you cut off the head, there's a whole network of other factions within Iran that's ready to carry out orders. So what I believe is that there's no way to win this war without boots on the ground. And so you're going to be more annoyed because every single time what's going to happen is they're going to say, oh, well, because they keep attacking our neighbors, we have to go in. And oh, because they're not opening up the Strait of Hormuz, we've got to go and we've got to secure the city. Oh, because they keep attacking Bahrain and Saudi Arabia and Jordan and Israel, we've got to go and provide protection for our allies because we made a pact with them. And then eventually they just escalated a little bit more, and a little bit more. And all of a sudden, a week turns into a month turns into a quarter, and now we're there for a long time. Now, I hope they decide to take an off ramp, and I'll turn it back over to you. But Chris, there is no end in sight, brother. And let me tell you why. Last point. There's no end in sight because what's going to happen is Iran is not going to stop because the ticking time bomb has already been detonated once the U.S. walked away from the second round of negotiations. It's going to be a mess, Chris. This is only the beginning, in my opinion.
I think I'm more optimistic on them reaching some type of resolution. I really am. I think that something's going to happen. I don't think that it's going to get stuck, but I understand the timeline of it. Look, here's the thing. Trump is a big risk taker, and he is risking the midterms with this move. He absolutely is. And that is the biggest thing that concerns me long term. Look, Iran, no one has to argue with the fact that Iran is a destabilizer. Nobody could dispute that.
That's very clear.
They are a destabilizer, right? And again, at the same time, going in there and doing what we're doing right now at this point, nobody likes that. Nobody does. I don't like it. You don't like it. It's affecting everybody. It's making everybody's life miserable, cost-wise, when we're still dealing with inflation. But at the same time, it makes our lives miserable because it's like, if you live in California right now, like, you'd be like, I'm sure there are people in California that are legitimately like going, oh my God, is there going to be drone attacks on California? Like, is there going to be terrorist attacks on California? Is there going, because you've heard that mess, you've heard that stuff going on, and then you see Gavin Newsom get out and speak about it. I'm not trying to make this about Newsom at all, but he doesn't make it sound any reassuring because all he does is talk like this. You know, Len, I don't even know how to read. I'm just like you, bro. And that's the leadership that we have. But at the same time, it's making life miserable. I think we just got to get off it as fast as we can because it doesn't solve. I understand what problems it's solving long term, but it's not making it easy for the biggest problem, which is people are fickle.
Yeah, and
right?
people are dying. I mean, right now,
and people are dying.
13 dead so far, and 140 wounded already. Right,
and the thing that scares me the most about all of this, Len, and I think it'll probably scare you too, is the fact that, look, say what you want to say about Trump, say what you want to say about Biden, say what you want to say about Kamala, whatever. The situation was not going to get any better if Kamala was elected. As far as the economy, the country, the wokeness of the world, like at this point, men would have to probably wear pink bow ties if Kamala was. I'm being
those are
satirical.
Two separate things, though, bro.
I'm being satirical and extreme.
I
but what I am saying is, what scares me is that no one wants a return of not so much the faces, because let's face it, Kamala, Newsom, all those guys, they're just faces. They're Biden, they're just faces to the real powers that be underneath everything all. And you mentioned it, which is the industrial complexes of the United States, such as the military industrial complex, right? We should have never allowed defense companies to have, and generals, retired generals, to have such a hold on things. And that's what creates that government bureaucracy in America, is the fact that all these defense companies are becoming wealthy now because we have wars, and that's why we like these wars. But no one wants to return to the way America was under Biden during COVID and leading up to that weirdness of the world.
Okay.
Because that's what scares me. Trump brought us back more normal and made normalcy normal again. Like
really?
Trump,
you believe that? You really believe that?
Do you don't think that the wokery has died since he was elected?
Okay. But okay.
Seriously, Because you don't think that the wokery has gotten checked? Extreme DEI, extreme wokery, extreme leftism, extreme all of those things. We were way to the left and going that way. Trump being elected centered it more. But
let me jump in on that point. Let me jump in on that point real quick. Okay, so
because this war, Len, before you say that,
go ahead.
Before you say that, because this war just isn't about Iran and how it normally would. This war is about what's going on in America as far as ideologies changing and the impacts that it has on this country and the direction of this country.
Let's talk about ideology and direction. Let's do that, because I think this is a real inflection point, and where you and I need to have a real serious conversation where I really want to understand your perspective, and I really hope that you understand my perspective, because we definitely diverge in this respect. So let me try to articulate what I mean by that. What has happened over the last, I'm going to say 5 to 8 years since Trump finished his first term, going into Biden's term, and then going into Trump's second term, is this idea of trans issues and woke ideology and quote unquote conservative values, I believe has been way overblown by the right to make it a bigger deal than it's supposed to be. And I also believe that it's been way overvalued on the left, the far left, by making issues that impact 1 to 10% of the population, depending upon how you parse that out. 1% is about 1% of the population is considered part of the LGBTQ community. And then you've got other people that, fit in there based on their perspective. So when you have such a small fragment of the population that gets so much of the airtime, on the left, that's a problem. On the right, to make these ideas of DEI and this woke ideology such a really big deal is like way overblown on the right. Because if you really think about it, if you talk about DEI and you look at the people who are currently in office, you can't tell me that Pete Hegseth is the best candidate for the job. You can't tell me that Pam Bondi is the best candidate for her job, and that Kristi Noem was the best candidate for her job, and Kash Patel. Like, those are people that have been inserted into the administration that clearly are not qualified at the extent of where they should be to operate those positions. Those, you can look at a lot of people in the administration and see the connections. Like, okay, Pete Hegseth is a person, Fox News guy, who has always spoke on behalf of Trump. And so because of Trump being the person that he is, he allows those people to come into office. So I want to, before I go and continue my point, I just want to say, Chris, that the most important topic that's going on right now is not about a woke agenda. What's going on right now is that there is this divergence, this moving away from the rule of law, from a president who does things and says things in ways that are just at his whim and behest. I like the fact, now let me say something that I feel positive about Trump. So, cause I'm not trying to be a hater. I just want to speak truth, and I just want to say from my perspective how I see the world. So I don't think it's always black and whites. So when I look at Trump, what I believe is positive about him is that he says out loud what other presidents in the past have not been willing to say. I respect that, because you know what he's thinking. Now, here's the thing that I don't like, though. What I don't like is that the White House and the administration in the White House has turned the office of the president into this propaganda machine, propaganda against the woke left and left ideology and radical terrorists and they use these hyperbolic words to describe people instead of being a party that unifies. And when they're talking about Iran and what's going on, and I'll turn it back over to you, is that they're using these words and it's not real. It's not rooted in reality. They're saying, oh yeah, we completely obliterated Iran's nuclear capabilities back in June. It's completely obliterated, but now we got to go start a war because they could have a bomb. And we believe that if we hadn't done anything, they would have attacked us within 2 weeks. Both can't be true, bro. So I'll turn it back over to you. I just think we need to get back on more of unification. We need to get away from this on both sides talking about this woke left DEI ideology as if it's a big deal, because it's not, bro. We need to talk about the things that matter most to most Americans. I got a lot more to say, man, but I'll be quiet. I'll turn it over to you to respond.
I'm not sure how you don't see the proof in that when you look at how government was so wasteful and the sheer incompetence of government in anything that it does outside of the shadow government that we have. Because the United States government is really two governments. It's the government you see and the government you don't see. And I know that's real deep and we don't have a lot of time to get into that, but when you see the United States government go out and perform military operations like in Venezuela and like what's going on right now in Iran, Iran, that's like the United States government corporation going out there and doing its thing. And then when you see the BS that's happening right now inside America, that's like the wokery, weak ass American government that just saps Americans from everything that they have and goes and feeds it to the rest of the world elites all over the world, spreads the American wealth, American sovereign wealth all over the world. Here, sprinkle a little bit here, sprinkle a little bit there, sprinkle a little bit there, sprinkle, 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 until all of a sudden you and I are paying astronomical prices for gas just because. We're paying astronomical prices for everything just because we decided that globalizing everything was a good thing. Well, if we hadn't globalized everything, we would be a good thing. The problem is that every mom, brother, sister, cousin in the rest of the world would be trying to come to America, and now the whole world will be coming here like a zombie apocalypse, because if America had not gotten involved and sprinkle partied everywhere all over the world for the last 40, 50 years, its wealth, the rest of the world would be dying in death and decay. Because everyone wants to talk about, Len, how powerful China is about, oh, they can manufacture. The reality is that what are they powerful on? A fiat currency? I mean, think about it. If you take away the fiat currency that puffs the world up, who really is strong? Who really is powerful? Nobody is. China depends on the consumer that you and I are. China depends on you and I buying toaster ovens, right? And China relies on Iran to sell them oil, and then Iran relies on this war because it hates anything but Islam, because Islam is a religion of hate by default. So what do you do with someone like that? Like, for example, let's break it down to the simplest thing. If we're all in a classroom and there's 30 of us and there's a bully that keeps disrupting the teacher and keeps beating up Susie and Jack, what do we do with that bully? We neutralize that bully. That bully goes to the vice principal's office, and then from there they get a warning, and then they get thrown back in. They go, okay, cool. You know, there's diplomacy. Yeah, behave, little pat on the back, whatever, sanctions. Then they get thrown back. Maybe they get allowed to trade on the trade. Maybe the sanctions get dropped a little bit, and then they start doing the same crap again. So what do you do with that bully? Because DEI is real, and it is a threat. Karen Bass is a failure, and she's a DEI. She's a failure. Christine Neon, she had a very good chance to be a good DHS. She was a governor, for crying out loud, right? But guess what? It went to her head, and Trump fired her. fired her because her job was her merit. See, her merit was under question. Most importantly, her merit was under question. But then she had an infidelity with her aide, and that was the final straw. Cut him off. I'd love to see that. That's a whole topic of its own. But the war is the most important thing. Hextall was in the military. Pete Buttigieg was a good secretary. If we want to compare administrations, I think Trump's administration, this one around, is filled with more merit-based people than his previous one. I think his previous administration, his first administration, was more in line with the rhino neocon liberal parties because he had people like Rex Tillerson in there from Exxon. Good God, man. That was like Cheney 2.0. But what do you do with someone like that? If we just break it down, Iran, in a sense, what do we do with that? What do we do? And don't even get me started on Crockett and all these other people, and Schumer and Pelosi, all these baby boomer politicians that have sucked the life force out of the millennial and the zennial generation and are riding off into the sunset in their $8 million Napa house, just like Kamala Harris is. How does Kamala Harris afford a house like that? How? I would love to get on her pension plan. See, those are the problems. And see, we're at war with Iran right now because Iran is a bully. So what do we do? My suggestion, Len, is let's fold our arms, beef up our defenses, and sit there and wait for Iran to launch a disgustingly inhumane attack again on some country in the Middle East or Europe, kill hundreds of thousands of people, and then everyone will go, please, America, come save us again, like we did in World War I and World War II. That's my solution to it. Because quite honestly, I don't want to be involved in any of this stuff. And we ought not to be. And maybe that's a bad position to take because it's like, well, you're already involved because of all the shadow stuff our government does because that we don't know about. But at one point, it's 50-50, baby. It's two to tango. Yeah, we probably do some crap that we shouldn't do, but we do some crap because other people do crap too. We're just doing it back. Because quite honestly, if America just sits and plays its game of isolationism, and what is the word? I'm probably thinking the word isolationism can be described with that. That's more of a negative tone or negative light on America.
You're talking really America first, right? That's
America. What is that? A populace? When Canada is a country, a populous nation, right? Mm-hmm. We ought to be because we've always been about being a populous nation since our beginning. Our roots are a populous nation. We don't want to deal with all that crap. We don't. Well, but so Len, in that scenario, if we break it down to the simplest form that any of us can understand, if there's a classroom with 20 kids in it, 30 kids in it, whatever, when I grew up, there was only, maybe 27, 26 kids to a classroom, right? When I was going through grade school, which was great. Now there's like 40 kids. I don't even understand how teachers teach anymore in public school. That's what we should be looking at. But again, we're not. So if there is a classroom of 30 kids, and Iran is the bully, insert X, whatever, in that classroom, who's threatening the teacher, disrupting the classroom, beating up Susan and Jack. We go and send them to the principal's office. They get a little poo-pooey on the back, little warning, come back into class. They still do it. What do you do with that kid? You expel them. You expel them, right? Expulsion is the next option, right? You're an educator, which means what? They have to go to an extension school or a bad kid school or no school at all. They got to do military school. So what do we do with Iran? How do we expel them from the world stage from committing all the atrocities before they do drop a dirty bomb that goes sideways? Len, think of it that way, because it could go that way, Len. Let's say Iran goes and drops a dirty bomb, it goes sideways, doesn't make it to America because it won't, and it lands over Europe, and nuclear fallout, dirty fallout all over France, Spain, the UK, Portugal, and Israel. What happens now? What do we do now?
Okay. I think in order for us to have
what do we do?
I'm going to tell you, I think in order for us to have a productive conversation, we've got to think about what our guiding beliefs are about Iran. So one, you mentioned that Islam is about hate. No, it's not. It's not Islam. Radical Islam is definitely about hatred. And so I think that's one is how we view Iran. The other thing is, one thing that's happened, if you look at Iran from 1979 to now, Iran itself as a country has used other proxies to carry out their dirty work. Like they used Hezbollah to carry out some of their different attacks. And because of that, they've funded different, groups and things like that. But Iran itself hasn't been the nation that has been the aggressor, not even close to what America's done. But I'm not trying to equate the two. So please don't misunderstand what I'm saying. This is what I am saying, is that when we decided to preemptively attack Iran, and I think you and I will agree on this, we attacked them, and we don't really have any personal interest as a nation to do that. Now, I know when we get together on subsequent podcasts, we can talk strategy and stuff like that, but we don't have any issue with them. Now,
we don't.
Iran is an existential threat to Israel. That's a fact, but they're not an existential threat to us. And so the fact that we chose to go and attack them, it created so many more problems. And this is what I think, is that Iran, this is what I believe. Iran does not want nuclear weaponry to go and attack the world. They want nuclear weaponry so that people like countries like us won't attack them. They're taking the playbook from North Korea. Look, North Korea, think about it. North Korea is right by South Korea. If North Korea didn't have nuclear weapons, there's no way that Kim Jong-un was be in power. And the reason why is because he is a totalitarian dictatorship. He killed people that were looking to question his rulership. He holds his people in, abject poverty. Even if you look at satellite pictures, you see Pyongyang, it's super dark. And then you look at Seoul in South Korea.
It's funny to look at that.
Yeah, it's like completely different, right? So if he didn't have nuclear weapons, bro, we would have gone in there a long time ago. So Iran is looking at them and saying, oh, okay, we figured it out. As long as we have the threat that we can wipe you off the face of the earth, you'll leave us alone. That's what I believe. And I believe that they do want to develop a nuclear warhead and to have a nuclear arsenal. But I look at it more as a defensive strategy as opposed to going and using it to wreak havoc on the world. So if the United States operates from the perspective of, they're going to get a dirty weapon and take this nuclear, enriched uranium, and they're going to wreak havoc on the world and blow everybody up, then you can say that about any opposition you don't like that doesn't have a nuclear warhead. And so then it always justifies this opportunity to go in and start a war with everybody. So that goes against what you even want, Chris. You want to say, look, leave us alone as America. Let us deal with our own trash here. We don't need to be the police officers of the world. Let them do their thing. And if they go and bully somebody else and go kill some people and they're one of our allies, then we'll jump in at that point. But let's not preemptively jump in just because Israel is the tail wagging the dog. They're the ones getting us into this crap.
I completely agree with you 100% on all of that. I do. And by the same switch of that, I also think that we should maintain, and we have the right to maintain, military superiority in the world. We were invited in to take that position after World War II.
Correct.
We were invited in to take it, right? Because what we have proved time and time again is that the morality of all these other nations that have been around, and when I say these other nations that have been around a lot longer than us, I'm talking about the ones that are obviously the ones that are pulling the strings of the world, right? Mm-hmm. That have been around a lot longer than us, that consistently can't figure this shit out. So sorry, guys. That's the way it is. but you're absolutely right. I think like we should be like this. But the problem is that we've allowed ourselves to become so intertwined now that we can't even help ourselves with it anymore. But again, we're in a difficult position because we're damned if we do and we're damned if we don't, Len. If we don't step up, oh, America, you're not doing anything. And if we do, it's like, oh, America, you're inserting your imperialism on us again. No.
Heavy is the head that wears the crown.
Yes, brother. Yes, heavy. Yes, it is. It sure is. It sure is. It sure is. But at the same token, here's the problem with that as well. We have no choice now to wear the crown. We don't. We have no choice. And here's why. History will repeat itself over and over and over again. And what has history always showed us? If you try to maintain peace, like, right, oh, Len, we're just this great village of peaceful farmers and kumbaya and we love each other and we won't mess with you and you don't mess with us and we just want to be here and raise our families. Bro, the next war party tribe from whatever tribe that comes and finds us is going to kill us, all of us, and rape and pillage everything. And for us to sit back and think, for all of you people in the world, and I don't say you people like I'm addressing anybody, but for all the people in the world that sit back and just go, oh yes, you're fooling yourself if you don't think that the world operates the same way as it does. The world today operates the same way as it did 2,000 years ago. The difference is that we don't have swords and shields anymore.
Yeah, it has become more sophisticated.
But it's the same. You know why though, Len? Because human nature hasn't changed. There's more slaves today than there were ever. There are more people in slavery today. And I'm not just talking philosophical.
You're talking, sex trafficking and... I'm
not even talking about that. I'm just talking straight up slavery, like most people understand it, which is, you know what? I own them and they labor for me. There are more slaves today like that than there were ever. And then when you add on top of that, the sex trade, all that stuff's been happening. That doesn't change. There were sex trades 2,000 years ago. They were objectified. People were objectified. Nothing has changed.
So I have a question.
I know what's changed. You know what's changed before you have the question. You know what's changed? Yeah. And see, this is what ticks me off, Len. This is what ticks me off. Because there are politicians that sit on their big, comfortable butts in America and talk trash about Western values. Like, oh, Western values. They talk trash about Western values when they have no freaking right to talk about Western values that way, because it's Western values that allow them to sit on their butt in a comfy leather chair and collect a $250,000 salary and not have to put up with their BS laws that they pass. Yeah, and you know who I'm talking about. You know it.
I know that there are lots of people in Congress that became politicians because they
kings and queens
a paycheck, no doubt about
and
that.
Guess what?
We agree.
And guess what? And guess what? You and I, Len, not just the working part. Western values have been what's changed. Western countries has what's changed. That's why we don't see the rape and the pillaging out in the open anymore. Because Western countries came in, even the Brits. Look, as much as I give the UK and the British Empire a grief, they at one point said, enough is enough with this stuff. And they walked away from the slavery stuff. Enough is enough. And so did America. But see, there's these same dangerous politicians, these philosophers that think they're so smart and so ultra realistic that sit there on their butts and say at the same time Western values are to blame, that say America invented slavery. Same dangerous type of language. And then young kids grow up thinking this and then they hate America. I don't think anyone else in the world wants the morality of any other country in the world besides America's morality. And that's something we talk about. Len, I'm curious. I want to know what your question is. You know, I got to go. You know, I'm the conundrum, man. I get so passionate when you talk trash to my favorite girlfriend, and that's America. We're about to be 250 years old.
Hey,
right?
I'm just saying, talking about Western values, look, I believe
they're not perfect.
I believe that I think what America needs more of, what it aspires to be, is to have Christian values. And I believe that Christian values embedded within a democratic governing system is where we need to get back to. So If you've been watching this and you have something that you want to say, I'm sure each of us has said something that you probably agree with and disagree with. So feel free to like, comment, share, and we're going to always continue to bring you value. And with that being said, Chris, it's always good. And until the next episode, take care, man.
Conversation has given you clarity on your next steps. Please share this episode with someone who's walking the same path. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you won't miss future episodes. And remember, planning ahead isn't just prudent, it's an act of care. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time on The Family Office.